In this video demonstration, I'm going to show you how to make a beautiful stained glass window card that actually looks as if you've paper pieced in individual pieces of glass using the beautiful panel, which is the dogwood panel here from the JND551 stitch lines. And we framed it in a combination of JND551 and 550, which work together to give us the perfect 6x4 frame maker, which really frames this piece. So let's see how this card is made. So to make that beautiful stained glass look, we're going to use the insert from JND551 stitched lines, which has this beautiful dogwood flower arrangement with the leaves and everything in a sort of stained glass window. We're also going to make a frame just using the outside line of the stitch dies and the outside line frame maker die from the dotted. So cutting those separately, I'm going to cut the larger frame in the pink, so we offset that. And with a frame maker, all you have to do is stick the die onto the card randomly and just run it through your die cutting machine. Exactly the same with the white, but what you'll find is if you put this lengthways on, you will get it twice onto card. So you can get this at least 3 times from any piece of card of A4 and cut that out. Cut those together, foam mount them, and you get the perfect frame. Exactly what you need. That's exactly 6x4, so we'll fit on a 6x4 card, a 5x7 card, absolutely perfectly, and frames things with this beautiful stitch detail. Of course, you can add the inserts from the die if you want to add additional stitch detail on that to have a really sort of stitched frame. So to make the actual stained glass, it is really simple. I've taken a piece of card here and I've cut this down to 5 3/4 by 3 3/4 so that it fits inside the frame with nothing hanging outside. And simply take the die in the centre, tape that down to your card, run it through the machine and cut that out. And it is a really simple, beautiful cut that cuts in one piece. I'm using my Kaleido here, but I always think it's important to show you that pieces actually do cut and that all that detail cuts out. So I always go forward and back. I might as well have 2 cuts for the effort I'm putting in. We take the die off, and this is what's so fabulous about dies, and give it a flick. And you can see here every single piece is cut, and you get that beautiful chamfered edge, which makes it look so professional, where the edge of the die actually turns around the card slightly and makes it look, as I say, a lot more professional. Perhaps then again electronic die cutting machines have their place, but die cutting machines give you a really nice finished look. But I wanted to show you every single bit cuts out really simply. So obviously we can paper piece that. We can, as we've done in the other video, add glitter behind or mediums behind. But to get a stained glass look, all we're going to do is simply take that and add a piece of acetate onto the back. So just a simple piece of clear acetate. I'm going to turn that onto its front, so I've got the back facing up, and I'm just going to grab some alcohol markers. Again, you can use any permanent marker, so things like your Sharpie and things like that will work, but alcohol markers work really well. And all I'm going to do is just colour behind each flower petal. So I'm colouring behind each flower petal in pink. I'm only going to do 1 flower just to show you. But it's really simple, and of course you can use any colour at all, and you don't have to be within the lines. I've gone right over the lines, but of course when I bring that out and let's put it against a piece of white card, you see the pink perfectly. So I'm also using for this a green, so I'm just going to use a little bit of green in the centre and use green for the leaves. So put those on just like that, nice and simple. Then the space, I'm using a pale blue. So again, you can use the fine end, or this is actually a great place for a larger area to use your chisel tip if you have that. And all you want to do is to fill in. And again, you don't want to be too careful. You want it to look like it's stained glass. You want it to have those little bits of imperfections in there. So I'm just going over and colouring effectively the window bit, which is why I'm using the light blue. So just going in between each of the flowers so it's all coloured. So there I've done just one flower and one set of leaves. But again, when you pop it onto white, you see there you've got that beautiful colour, and it is just like a stained glass window. So you want to repeat that until you've completely covered all of it. So until you've actually coloured all of it in, and it literally takes a couple of minutes. And as you can see, what I've done is not being too careful with the colouring. With the alcohol inks, they will sort of flood a little bit, and what you get is something that looks actually like glass. You get the sheen, but you're getting that imperfections in colour. So all we want to do now is to mount that onto a piece of white. So I've added a little bit of foam tape here again, so I've got some distance and it makes it look more like a window. I'm using a 2mm foam tape, and it's just 10mm wide, which fits perfectly within the design. I designed the dies to fit with the products that I actually use. So I'm just going to pop that down onto a piece of white card, and I find it easier to put it onto a larger piece and then just trim it out so that the panel is exactly the same size. And there we go. So there I've got my beautiful, and by having that distance, I've got that beautiful stained glass and the reflection of the glass. We'll take our frame, and again, I've added some foam tape onto the back of the frame to make sure that I get that little bit of distance in there. Just adds a little shadow, which makes it look, again, more professional. And you can see it's designed so that the exact outline that comes from the larger frame covers the outside edge, so it looks as if it is literally just hanging in the window piece. To balance it, I've got a piece of blue, again from all the card I'm using is either white, coconut white essential card, or it's from our Craft Artist Canvas Coordination Packs. So this is a light blue from our soft blues, and this has been cut slightly bigger at 6 1/4 by 4 1/4. Just so we frame that blue onto there. And then I've got a larger card blank here, cut to 5 1/2 by 7 1/2, so I can have a little bit more imposing card. And I matted and layered this with white, the pink and the blue, so all of the colours pulled together. Adding a little bit of glue onto the back, and we just place that centrally into there. And you've got that perfect stitch frame with that beautiful stained glass window look that comes from this dogwood panel. For more ideas, hints, tips and inspiration, why not visit the John Next Door official page on Facebook.